Should we jump or is it too soon? Jump or is it too soon? Jump or is it too soon? The cosmos look nice, some shallow paradise, but I'll stay here with you. Should we jump or is it too soon? Jump or is it too soon? Look to the stars and do you think they are too far? Look to the stars and do you think they tell us who we are? Should we jump or is it too soon? Should we jump or is it too soon?
Well, hello there. Welcome, friends. Hopefully you can hear me. I made sure the microphone isn't muted, so sound should be coming through. I hope you're all having a good Saturday. I'm sure you're enjoying your weekend. If you had to work today, I'm sorry. Yay, I can be heard. Hola, ¿cómo está? So tonight's movie is going to be, it's called The Amazing Transparent Man. The public domain version of The Invisible Man, I guess. It's from 1960. It's black and white. I think it has sound. Aside from the plague, keep your plague on your side of the ocean, okay? Yes, the plague is bad. What, have we got the flu? Because I think we would have heard if the plague was going around again. You take care of yourself. And drink water, eat the chicken noodle soup. Plenty of sleep. That's all I know about treating the plague. Have plenty of Lysol. Yeah, don't die. Lysol will save you. Your body was fighting it for a week. Oh, yeah, you wore it out. You couldn't fight anymore, but you tried. You put up a good fight, and that's what matters. Hot baths and showers is definitely helpful. Chicken nudes. Not chicken nudes. You don't need nudes of chickens. That will not help you. I mean, I don't know, maybe it will. You do you, boo. You do you. Oh, you know what? If anybody wants some geology, I have a picture. Rocket Sage, who is a geology streamer, sent me a sample of apatite. And you all get to see the picture of it because it's very shiny and pretty. Let's see if I can get it onto the stream. Gimme them geology. Gimme. Okay. And I'm really sorry for all the crap that's probably coming up on the screen now. Okay, I put it in correctly. Why is it not showing anything? I literally copied that. God. Oh, fish cache. Fish cache. There we go. That is my Beauty Miss New Shiny. That is apatite. It is. Yeah, I tried to get it to show the colors, and the picture doesn't really do it justice. Apatite is a phosphate hexagonal. This sample came from Madagascar. It has a hardness of 4. It does have poor cleavage, so it doesn't have a future as a Twitch cam rock, which is sad. I believe it's iron inclusions that are in it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the picture doesn't do it justice. It's beautiful. Yes, poor cleavage like Momo. So yeah, it's like, well, it won't do well as a cam streamer. Which is sad. Yes, not everything can have good cleavage. God knows I know that. It does, I think, have a hardness of 5, though, so even though it has poor cleavage, it's hard. Yeah, it has a hardness of 5, so I can, like, bounce it off people's heads. Oh, shit. Okay, we're gonna have to take a quick break. My microphone stand literally just fell down. So I will be right back, my dears. You can look at the pretty picture of the rock. It is a pretty shiny. Okay, we will try this again. Yes, apatite actually is one of the few you can lick. You can lick the apatite. I mean, I wouldn't, like, eat it, but you can lick it. You have to tell Sage about that the next time you're in one of her chats. Yep. And I disappear for 10 seconds and y'all turn to, let's eat the rocks. She thinks it only happens in her streams, but no. No, it's like the automatic aside. Let's just eat rocks. You can lick anything at least once. In one of Sage's streams, someone was talking about cinnabar, which you can't lick it. You shouldn't really even handle it too much. It contains mercury. And somebody was like, you know, we'll lick the cinnabar. And I was like, well, choose a good piece because you probably only lick it one time. So yes, that is my Beauty Mist rock. Let's make it bigger. It contains a whole planet. Sure, why not? It is so pretty. I wish the picture had done it more justice. But Mercury. Yes, it contains the entire planet of Mercury. Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. Don't be booing. One night we'll have the dad jokes segment. Y'all can tell your best dad jokes. Okay, I think that's enough of our rock. You boo, you boo. We'll have a new segment called You Boo, You Lose. Okay, back to our Beauty Mist relaxing fire. Such a pretty fire. The whole stream can just be looking at the fire. we'll just watch the fire. So relaxing. Yeah, you do you, boo. You do you. So we ready to watch a movie, or do we want to eat some rocks? Because I'm down for either. We can eat rocks. No, we can't really eat rocks. That's... Well, I do have another rock here, but I don't think it's edible. You will throw a lovely campfire for us. Can we get a story time? You want to skip the movie and just go straight to the story? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Because I will be happy to read you a story and skip the movie. Wait, I got at people or I forgot at people? Puppy fight. Oh, I did forget to at people. Oh no. Okay, I added everyone. You didn't miss anything. I mean, all you missed... Oh, puppy, I would not let you miss it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, hon. Here, you can look at... Puppy missed the rock, so you can see my new shiny rock. It's very pretty. It is Appetite. It has poor cleavage, but good hardness, so, just lick the rock. If you want to lick a rock, I mean, like Debbie said, you can lick anything once. I mean, it doesn't look very edible. And it's got a hardness of 5. You would lose your teeth. You wouldn't want to eat that. You would lose all of your teeth. You're going to eat it anyway? Well, that's rude of you to eat my rock. It's my rock. Get your own rock. I wish I could remember what that is fun. It's like, this is mine. Go get your own. I'm glad you got to see the rock, puppy. I'm really sorry. One of these days I'll remember to like at people. I did post on Twitter, but it didn't go through right, so who knows. It wasn't a challenge to eat the rock. It wasn't challenging you. You'd be challenging your teeth. I'm not sure if the tweet went through right because it didn't show the box or what I was streaming or anything. Those bastards at Twitter. Here, let me move the rock over. I don't want to be blocking the chat. I'll get rid of the rock. I will get rid of the rock and we can look at it more later because it is a beauteous rock. But how will you eat if you have no teeth left? You'll have to eat nothing but shakes. That would be horrible. Here. Ew. There's your rock. There's your rock, bitches. Lick that. Lick that rock. I can do rock licking ASMR now because I have a rock that I can lick. Is that what you people want? Do you want rock licking ASMR? Oh, thank you, puppy. That's sweet of you. I suspect people will be disappointed to come in here and discover we're discussing rock licking, but I don't really care. But yeah, I do. It's such a, you already did, you win. You already did what? Did you lick the screen, Dovey? Did you lick the screen trying to lick my rock? Oh, Dovey, thank you for the subscription. That is much appreciated. And the alert didn't come through because my rock is blocking it. I am so rude. That was very rude of the rock. I'm so sorry. But thank you for the sub, hun. Don't tell people what to do. If they want to lick Pumice Stone, they can. I mean, Pumice Stone is volcanic rock. It's probably okay to lick it. And you will have a very soft, smooth tongue when you're done. My smexy emote. So smexy. Don't love your stones to death. That's not... Stone lives matter, okay? Do not love them to death. You need to keep them alive. No, puppy, I have been lazy and I haven't added the emotes yet. Because I haven't decided if I want to make them tier 2 emotes and tier 3, or if I want to wait and see if I can get enough subscribers to open up another level of... another slot of emotes. Yeah, you get the Smexy Sakura. Spexy Sakura for Debbie. But Puppy Fight made that popcorn sub badge. She made it look much better than what I had. How carbon lives matter? How's that? Carbon lives matter. What, you don't associate a box full of ramen noodle with movies? Come on. Yeah, the original did look pretty bad in hindsight. You used rocks for what they were good for, building bridges. You didn't use them for the original purpose, which was banging people in the head? Come on. Rocks were not put on this earth to be your bridges. We need a ramen night. That would be interesting. How would we do ramen night? Would that just be an ASMR stream of me slurping ramen? Starting to think you really want that ASMR stream. The licking of rocks and the slurping of ramens. Can you guys even hear the music? There, now there's music. All this time I've been listening to this awesome music and you guys can hear it. Oh, well, that's sad. Now I have to start the playlist over because you guys missed the best music. I mean, in hindsight, I should start the movie, but we're all friends here. We're not in a hurry. The plague has been waning slowly since this afternoon, so you might actually end up being able to get some sleep. You're not allowed to crash during the stream. Sorry, I forbid it. If you crash during the stream, I will never forgive you. And I will ban you. I'll ban you from my stream. Yep, that's what I will do. I will never forgive you. I'm totally kidding. I hope you can get some sleep. Okay, so let us begin our movie. Now that I've turned the music volume up. Oh, come on, drive while watching a stream. It's fine. I've actually driven while watching a stream, and you shouldn't do that. I don't highly recommend it. Alright, here we go. The whole massive influx of Indian people onto the internet in one huge go is basically the latest version of the Eternal September. Alright. That is definitely a random thought. I have no idea what the Eternal September is. I can't tell if that's supposed to be a background graphic or wallpaper behind the credits. But apparently they have a flashlight to show them. So good on them. Ooh, Lester gets the fancy font. And Edgar Ulmer. I didn't know this was Escape from Alcatraz. Also, you'll have to let me know if you can hear me and hear the movie, okay? Or if I need to adjust anything. Okay, we will turn the movie up. Is the audio better on the movie, or does it need to go up higher? Wait for talking? Oh, with the movie? Yeah, since it's just been nothing but music, it's hard to tell. Come on, people, speak, damn it. I'm assuming there's talking in this movie. That's what I'm wondering. It's like, is this like a... This was made in 1960. They had talking movies by then. If the cop did... Oh, thank God.
Man escaped from state prison, ma'am.
I was worried.
Just routine. Who are you and where have you been?
Oh, my name's Matson, Laura Matson. This is my husband, John. We've been to a party at Pritchard's Point. I'm afraid he overdid it.
May I check your driver's license, please?
Yes, of course.
Is the movie still quiet? Okay, I will turn it up some more.
What about
Okay,
your
how is
husband?
that?
Well, that's why I'm playing chauffeur. His license was suspended. Drunk driving.
Well, there's no need to bother him. He's had enough trouble for one night without waking up and staring into the badge of an officer. Very sorry to have inconvenienced you.
Well, that's quite all right.
Okay, we're good.
You played it smarter than I thought you would. If you'd pulled that gun, it would have been all over.
Still don't get it. Why'd you break me out?
You'll find out when we get where we're going.
You're gonna be her sex slave. That's why she broke you out. Just don't forget, chat. Every movie is a fetish film. We just have to find the fetish. We worked out the fetish already? I mean, I'm sure we can find several. Am I too quiet? Oh. Yeah, it's a prisoner and police officer fetish. Let me turn the gain up on the microphone. You'll have to let me know if that's better.
Keep him around here to scare off visitors?
He served his purpose.
Now we kill him.
I guess everybody does.
Julian, put the car away, will you? Is Paul waiting?
Been in there chewing up the carpet for 2 hours. Any trouble?
No. Joey Faust, this is Julian.
I've seen him before in a police bulletin.
The Prisoner, the PBS series? That would be fun to watch. I like that series. See, you're catching on. You're catching on. Every movie is secretly about sex, especially the ones that were made in this era.
Well, I was beginning to worry.
Major Krenner, may I present Joey Faust?
Major, does that surprise you, Mr. Faust? It's for real?
No, it's fake.
What army? Well, there have been several. Take your choice.
My army.
Please, Mr. Faust. It's lovely. What is it? It's only a bit of shrapnel. It's a keepsake.
That piece of shrapnel ended the Major's military career.
That will be all, Laura.
You be quiet, woman.
You did well, my dear. Now run along and freshen up while Mr. Faust and I discuss business.
Off you go. Wash the dishes. Make a sandwich.
Major.
Make us a
Go ahead,
sandwich,
Take
woman.
off the coat if you wish. I know you'd like an explanation. Why did you set up the break? Oh, I can use you. You have quite a reputation in the underworld, somewhat of a genius when it comes to opening safes and vaults.
They must have dug that shrapnel out of your head. What kind of an idiot are you, Krenner? I can't poke my nose through a bank door without getting it blown off. Every newspaper in the country's got my picture.
You're
Just a
bitter, Faust.
reminder, this
Mean and
movie
bitter.
is The
You
Amazing
trust no one and you hate
Transparent
everyone.
Man,
You're the kind of man I need and understand.
not
'Cause I know all about your
prison
background.
heist or escape from Alcatraz.
What do you know about me you couldn't have gotten out of any newspaper?
Well, I check closely on all the people I use. I know about the wife who turned you in and the child you've never been allowed to see.
You make that sandwich. Make the sandwich.
I may owe you something. But if you ever mention my daughter's name again, you'll have another hole in your head, I promise you.
She won't make you
If
no
wish.
sandwiches.
Fast? Yes, your background explains your behavior. Now, we're conducting experiments requiring fissionable materials, and you'll procure them for us. Oh, you'll be well paid.
That's atom bomb stuff. The government has that locked up tighter than Fort Knox.
Precisely.
Include me a long way out, chum.
You're hardly in a position to bargain, Mr. Faust.
A man with a gun doesn't have to bargain.
Oh, true, but I'm certain Junior would disagree with you on that.
You know what one of these bullets will do, son? It'll rip out your spine and roll it up like a ball of string.
What's the score, Krenner?
You work for us faithfully, or you'll be turned over to the authorities. I understand there's a reward of $5,000 on your head.
And just what are these authorities going to say about your part in the break?
Police need know nothing
I mean,
of
if you
my
name your
part in this
child
case.
Child, then
You see,
you
they'll
don't have to
also
worry
pay
about misspelling
$5,000 for
it,
dead
at least.
files.
You'll never misspell it. You'll never say the wrong name.
What do you want?
That'll be all for now, Julian. Come along to the laboratory.
You got a lab here?
Oh, yes.
Well, thank
We're
God,
completely
because I was
equipped for our
beginning to wonder if we
experiments.
were ever going to get to that transparent man.
I made an extensive search before selecting this ranch as an operational base. As you can see, this is quite a serious business.
Information.
Dr. Ulof.
We just want information. It's very
Come here.
serious. Come, Igor.
Dr. Peter Ulof, Mr. Faust. Mr. Faust has joined us. He'll be supplying you with the vital materials. Dr. Ulof is an eminent nuclear scientist. Would you prepare one of your subjects for the ray treatment, Doctor? We must impress Mr. Faust with the end result of your highly acclaimed scientific labors.
Ulof. I've heard the name.
Oh, undoubtedly you have. I was quite fortunate in convincing him to continue his work here for me. Now, this vault is of lead, 2 inches thick. It contains our radioactive materials. Doctor, I told you to move this. The ray could penetrate this
So
lead
we
like
have a
butter, and the whole
vault,
countryside would
but
go
we
up in a
can't get into
mushroom
our own
cloud.
vault, so we had
There
to
is
break a
so
man
much.
out of prison so he could
Oh,
break
yeah,
into
Jane.
the vault
Are
that
you
is
ready
our
for the
vault that we
experiment?
can't get
I am
into.
ready.
Krenner. I agreed to do your dirty work for you, but I got to know what's going on.
Dr. Ulof would be glad to explain. Doctor,
This is the principle of X-ray that goes further. X-ray pierces only the outer shell of the body to show what lies beneath. This ray neutralizes all tissue and bone structure in the body. This machine utilizes X-ray, alpha, beta, and omega rays and ultraviolet, combining them for best effect and filtering out qualities which would hinder our operations. Here.
It'll seem more simple to you after you've seen what goes on.
Why are you so worried about this box?
Well, even a lead shield doesn't
Yes,
cover all
much
rays. It
words.
simply
It's so
strains them
science.
considerable. Still gets through.
Any accidental
There's the title of
concentration
it.
of rays from this apparatus could set up a chain reaction in the materials in the vault. A nuclear fission could result.
That was fun.
Come.
I know, it's an awesome graphic, isn't it? No, we're not making the Incredible Hulk here. I mean, maybe by the end we will have the Incredible Hulk, but...
It's not going to hurt.
Oh, dear God, why is it always the animals? I don't even know what animal it is.
Don't be afraid.
It looks like a guinea pig.
That's a good love. Yes.
Why are you doing this to that sweet little animal? Someone called PETA. Dude, can you imagine having an invisible guinea pig? Just running around your house, chewing on things, and you never know where it is? Not quite as scary as having an invisible cat, though. An invisible cat would fuck you up. Hey, Tensed. Welcome back. You know, that's a good question, Puppy. I will have to look up when the Humane Society got involved with films.
Keep your eye on the guinea pig. Come on, Mr. Fox.
Okay, so the Humane Society began monitoring films in 1940. So they definitely should have been around to monitor this one, assuming that was a real guinea pig and not a stuffed animal with noise effects added.
Prove to yourself it is.
Okay, Ted, so we won't go anywhere, I promise.
You see? I touch it. Does me no harm. We'll have any doubts, Mr. Faust? No doubts. You can return the animal to visibility, Doctor.
We learned something here, so that
Hey,
makes this an educational stream, right?
What happens to the guinea pig?
Buloff has perfected the ray to the point there's no danger to the subject. No ill effects at all.
It runs around and it bites you because you can't see it.
from the peephole, you'll find the Guinea pig is unharmed.
I suspect that's not what we're gonna see. Okay, that was freaky. Because the logical scientific part of me wants to know why something that was invisible would become revisible, like its skeleton, and then skip blood and muscle and fat and tissue and joints and ligaments and go straight to
Satisfy your
skin.
curiosity, Mr. Faust? As you could no doubt deduce, such a mechanism as this has unlimited possibilities. Yeah, like
I
what?
call
Well, that'll come
bullshit.
later. First things first, please. See? No harm done at all. Perfectly healthy. I imagine you've seen enough for one day, And you certainly must be tired after your trip.
Yeah, I could use a little sleep.
I'm sure Julia's found some clothes that'll fit you.
What is in here?
It's no concern of yours. Come on, Mr. Faust.
But the laws of the universe should be retroactive. So we're watching it now, so it should totally work. I don't accept that excuse. Also, that guinea pig sounds pissed.
I shouldn't be gone long. Leave
Please
the gate
don't
open. I'll
shoot
lock
me when I come
get
back.
I don't think you need to be cautious about Faust. He's dangerous and locks mean nothing to him, so I want you where you can watch his door at all times. Keep him in his room, you understand? He won't go nowhere. All right.
It's unintentionally proof of a simulated universe. So are we living in the simulation, or is the movie living in the simulation? We may never know. Well, that's not creepy as hell. Let me just peek in and make sure that you're in bed. I think we found another fetish. We do live inside a giant snow globe. A giant snow globe on a flat disc on the back of a turtle that's swimming through the universe. We all live in a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine, a yellow submarine. We all live in a yellow submarine. It's sad that I can sing that because this movie has so little dialogue. It's the Shadow Man. And his fetish of staring at people. Or wait, wasn't it the other guy that stared at him earlier? My God, everyone in this movie is a voyeur. As long as it's UMG and they like feed me well, I will be their property.
Faust. You in there, Faust.
I stare at you, you stare at me. Goddamn. I mean, you could have just invited him in and asked him if he wanted to be tied up. This is showing the wrong way to do bondage. It's not how you do it. Always get consent, children.
Dr. Uloff.
He really wants that guinea pig. I don't blame him. Guinea pigs are pretty awesome. The fetish scene of someone role-playing as a music pirate. Oh, UMC Sean, please come smack that big hard copyright notice on me. I've been so naughty. Come and claim all my revenue. Claim me, Daddy, claim me.
What are you doing? What is it you want up here?
Take it easy, Doc. I just came up to see you. Thought maybe
And
they
the
had you
guinea
locked
pig.
up in there.
Not I. Only what's left of my soul.
Came to get some answers.
And the guinea pig.
You seem about the only one around here who isn't a member of Krenner's fan club.
I have nothing to say. I'm a servant. Major Krenner does my thinking for me.
What's he got on you, Doc?
Why do you ask me these things?
So I can get some answers. How'd you get mixed up in this?
It's all about loving
My
guinea
daughter.
pigs.
He's holding her.
In that cheese box? Well, open it up, let her out.
Please, Mr. Faust, I do not joke. Not about my daughter.
It is about his daughter, man.
All right, Doc. Start at the beginning. How'd you get over here?
At the end of the Second World War, I fled my own country with my baby daughter. My wife had died of experiments. I had been forced to perform on her in a concentration camp.
Your own wife?
All my patients wore hoods.
I think his daughter's
I couldn't
named
see their
Daughter.
faces. I didn't know my wife was one of them until it was too late.
Well, that still doesn't explain how you got here.
On a boat, okay?
I came to this country as a refugee. No one knew I was a scientist, except spies like Krenner. After my wife died, I wanted no more of science. But Krenner forced me to come here.
Use your daughter?
If I do not do as I'm told, she will be killed. If I carry out their orders, she has security. I have only a few more months to live. But Krenner has seen to it that she will be provided for.
You don't think he's going to keep that promise, do you?
What choice have I? Soon I'll be dead. But my daughter's life is at stake. You have indicated that you could open it.
Not now, Doc. I got problems.
Please, Mr. Faust, release my daughter and take her to some safe place.
I got 99
Doc,
problems
I got my
and
own
daughter
trouble.
ain't one of them.
Then you can't open it.
I could open that thing blindfolded.
Don't you dare me.
Quite the little psychologist, aren't you, Doc?
That's good reasoning.
And this my brother Daryl.
Downstairs.
And this my other brother Daryl.
And please try not to be amusing.
You be dull,
Good
damn
night,
it.
Dr.
There will
Uloff.
be no amusing or entertaining. This is a strange fetish. I don't understand it. You're supposed to have the ropes and tie him up,
What's
woman.
next,
Come on.
Harry? You gonna shoot me?
Critter probably will when he gets back. He doesn't appreciate disloyalty.
Julian's the loyal type. All it got him was a lump in the head.
He's still out. I couldn't bring him around. What's so humorous?
And for a dame that's supposed to be so greedy, you don't know a thing about playing a hole card.
Oh?
You ever think how much that ray would be worth to a guy who wanted to rob a bank? With that thing, I could get into every vault in the country in broad daylight.
Dream on, Buster. It sounds pretty.
Maybe
To
being
take
invisible
on
is the
jobs like
fetish.
that, I would have to have a little help. Now, splitting the take of a few of those would pay you a lot more than Krenner will ever give you in a lifetime.
You need background music for this commercial.
Yeah, where'd the background music
Full
go?
orchestra and violins.
Huh? Don't believe me. Don't be a gambler.
Should I gamble on having my throat slit by Krenner or being shot by you?
Yeah, it's definitely the
Fine,
fetish
that's
here.
a chance you'd have to take. Just like the risk I run every time I get onto that ray.
Well, if you don't take a chance, you never know. I'll keep it in mind. Thanks, Julian. He was trying to make a deal.
He wanted to
You
become
must have heard what
invisible
he said.
and then come to my
He
bed.
was talking a double cross.
Yeah, I heard him. Sounded like you were listening awful close, too.
So now I'm gonna shoot
Keep
you.
quiet about this, Julian. Keep quiet and I'll help you. You know that Krenner's going to blame you for letting him out of his room. We've got to help each other now.
Julian.
Come on, help me.
Let's get in the room.
Julian.
I'm coming.
Open this door.
Hold your horses.
What happened? Where were you?
I was getting a broom. Wanted to sweep up that bottle I dropped.
I told you not to take your eyes off the Faust door.
Oh, him, he's out cold. I went in and picked up the bottle. Figured you didn't want him nipping in the morning when he wakes up.
But you did right. He's got to be sober. Good night.
Good night.
So now Faust is okay with being their prisoner. So many fetishes. So many.
What'd you do that for? Save your own skin?
This idea of yours does interest me. I figure you need
Is it
me
still
more than I
acting up
need
for you, Tadst? Oh, no. I wish I knew what the problem was and how to fix it.
I thought you were up in
The
the
screen
lab.
doesn't show anything, but you can hear me.
What was that for?
Don't try it. Don't even think about it. Julian told me about your talk
Did you
with
try
Faust.
signing out of Twitch and logging back in? Because I had to
Did it
do
make
that
any
one
deal?
night.
No, not yet, but I know you. My memory is too good. I remember our other deals. You don't think I gave you enough of a share, do you?
What are you talking about? What could I possibly have in common with Faust? He's a hood.
Just the type you go
I mean,
for.
hearing
Well, I
is
don't
like
care
half
what
the
you do
battle,
with your
right?
life. But when it
Yeah.
interferes with my plan,
Hearing is half the
I draw
battle,
the
so.
line.
Okay, well, I hope that clears it up. What?
Well, that's a dot on the I. Lay off the vodka. I want you ready when I need you.
I hope that that fixes the problem and that you can watch the rest of the movie with us.
If you will relax, Mr. Faust, there will be no pain. You may lose consciousness for a few moments after you become invisible, but there should be no other ill effect.
How do you know it'll work on a human? Do you know what'll happen?
We made hundreds of such experiments. There can be no slip-up.
We're gonna find out. That's why you're here.
Come on, Doctor. We don't have all night.
You can see clearly now? I'm glad you can see the movie now. Be good boy. I hope he starts squealing like the guinea pig. That is my hope for this. I want to see the guinea pig again. Well, thank God we've got this lovely scenery to show wires and tubes. Well, yeah, being able to chat does require seeing, so. See, now he disappeared all at once. He didn't go with, like, in layers, with his skeleton first and last, like the guinea pig. Still called bullshit.
What's happened? Is he all right?
His pulse is quite rapid, but that is to be expected.
Well, why is he breathing like that?
It may be shock.
Faust, can you hear me? Can you speak? Faust, try to sit up. He stopped breathing. Well, do something.
He's gone.
What?
It's Faust. He's here.
Faust, answer me. You... Faust, listen to me. You remain invisible till I want to return to normal. So you're...
If I choke you hard enough, you'll bring me back. Just showing you how badly you need me. And my loyalty costs money.
I told you we'd be well paid.
You neglected
Another
one
fetish
thing, chum.
revealed.
How much?
$1,000. $1,000 every time you do a job.
Kreiner, if I'm going to be it, I want money. Lots of money.
Oh, what do you expect? I can't pay that.
Oh, yes, you can, Major. I'm sure you can. Shall we talk it over in private? Downstairs? Over here, Major. I'm waiting.
I promise not to push you down.
After you, Major.
So you don't think 1,000 is enough?
You're a real case, Major. You think everyone's supposed to jump when you open your big fat mouth? Well, you've forgotten one thing.
Forgotten what?
You gotta have me, chum. Now, whatever you're up to, I'm worth plenty to you, or you wouldn't have gone to all that trouble of bringing me out. You're a dead duck without me.
So if they shoot him, do you think that his
What do you
blood
have
is
in
still
mind?
invisible?
Well, walking
would we
into
be
that
able to see
nuclear
that?
vault's worth about 25 grand. Let's get a little air in here.
25 grand? You're mad. I don't have that kind of money.
Then you do the job, Major. That's the figure. 25 grand in small bills, COD, take it or leave it.
All right. You'll go tonight. Flora will drive you.
Hey, Fatal Neon, how are you doing? Glad you could join us.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I just thought I heard something.
Back in 10 minutes. I got to check the other post.
I'm doing okay. It's been a rough couple of days, but I'm doing better.
And you didn't see anyone during all this?
Oh, no, sir. I heard a clicking noise like the wheel on the vault was turning, and I told him about it, but neither one of us saw anything.
That's right. There was nothing when I started to check the other guard posts.
Then what?
Well, I turned around, and the vault door was opening all by itself. And I got up to check it, and I pulled my gun, and something was all over me, and then the next thing I know, I'm waking up.
And this is where we send you for your drug test.
I don't know, Mr. Drake. It was okay when I came on duty.
No one believes that.
It couldn't have happened while I was checking posts, or he'd have noticed anyone tampering with it. It's set up with each of us covering the other.
Yes, but it's quite obvious neither one of you were covering the other. In fact, there was no coverage at all.
All right, Doctor. What was it you wanted to tell me about the guinea pig?
It was only a matter of time. It died despite of resistance it was developing against radiation. What about Frost? It's too early to tell. But each time it will take longer to reduce him to invisibility, less to return him to normal states. He will also develop a resistance.
What about the new material, the X-13?
I need more time to study it. Its properties are different from other nuclear materials. I do not like keeping it here. Its bombardment ratio is also much lower.
You're afraid of an explosion?
Yes.
We'll use the X-13 on Faust.
It could mean his death.
Doctor, I'm not concerned with the welfare of one man. I must know the full potential of your invention, because my aim is to make an entire army invisible. Do you understand? An entire army.
I did not agree to kill a man by deliberate radiation poisoning.
You're too old-fashioned to be a genius. But you scientists have brought the world to what it is today, and you can hardly blame me for taking advantage of your discoveries.
Faust may already suffer from poisoning, but it's curable. X-13 will put him beyond that point.
We don't care about him.
I will not use it on a human.
Then you die. Or your daughter dies. Have you forgotten about daughter?
If you have an alternative, Doctor, I'd be very happy to discuss it with you.
Oh, that raise something. Something every cheap safe cracker in the country's been dreaming of. Too bad the doc didn't invent it years ago for the right people. He wouldn't be cooped up here now.
You better lay off the giggle water. He can't use you drunk, you know.
Hush, woman.
Am I using him?
Serve
Now, come
him.
on with a drink. Oh, I could have walked into that vault in broad daylight and done the same thing. So easy, I felt like I was taking Krenner's money away from him.
Interesting thought, Faust. This time you do it the hard way. In daylight.
Well, through with me so soon, huh? Gonna get me killed off?
Oh, no, not at all. But I've learned that security has been tripled on the vaults during the night shift. 6 men. But it hasn't been strengthened during the day.
It's where do you get these gems?
He has sources. You better believe him.
One more haul, and we'll have enough for our present supply and work. You won't need this, and we're ready in the lab.
Yep, the giggle water. I didn't hear any giggling though, so I don't think it worked.
Hurry up. I cannot.
So we should take bets now, chat. Do you think that it will kill him faster, or he will be left permanently invisible? Because they just switched to the new X-13 radioactive material that hasn't been tested yet.
You can't get away with this in broad daylight, Joey. Why don't you stop running Krenner's errands? Let's not get any more involved.
Don't get emotional, baby. You're nice as a playmate. Let's keep it that way. Let's understand that.
Well, they may not see you, but they're bound to see the lead container when you try to get it out.
Got it
He
all
looks
wrong, honey.
slow.
Today's the day we take the
Okay,
bank.
so Debbie's betting on
It's broad daylight,
explosion.
you're crazy.
You're talking to a professional, remember? I don't have to worry about time locks or anything like that. Just walk in, pack up the loose cash, and walk out, and you, sweetheart, are going to be waiting for me. Oh, don't even say it. Your cut will be 40%.
You become visible but be blind?
I'll have to
That would be interesting. What if he becomes visible but gets the ability to see through things? Things become invisible to him. Though the title is The Transparent Man, so maybe he ends up permanently at like 50% opacity. If we were using logic, he has to be nude while being invisible. Well, he was wearing his clothes when he got hit by the ray, so I guess the ray could affect the fabric of what he's wearing. You like that idea? I think that would be a pretty cool story. Someone who's just stuck at 50% invisibility. Uh-oh. Now it's the amazing floating head.
Don't let anybody move, you won't get hurt.
I liked it better when it was a floating head and severed hands.
What's the matter? What?
Drive.
You can see him. Why are you asking what's the matter? Come on, woman. Where's your brain?
Well, thank you very much for your cooperation, miss.
I only hope it does some good.
I'm sure.
We'll be sending you for a drug test also, now that you told us you were robbed by a floating head and severed hands.
How long ago? Okay. Guess we can't stop it now. Story's out. The reporter was at the police station when the alarm came in.
Well, there's no doubt it was Faust. Everyone at the bank's identified him.
Well, what can we do? The man makes himself invisible. Locks mean nothing to him. If he did take the X-13, what defense do we have against him?
Nothing. None.
So the police know about the X-13 that makes people invisible? He did make a bad deal.
Hold it here.
He was very appropriately named.
There must be something we can do.
Yeah, if I can just get down to Ulof. I can't get back to the house till I'm invisible again.
Police report the so-called invisible man who robbed the Coatesville National Bank has been identified as Joey Faust, escaped convict and safecracker. Witnesses
kind of
said the robber
opaque guy
became
that-
visible before their eyes. Citizens are warned.
Oh, he's got to come
That
back
is
in that
definitely
trap,
a good
too.
movie hero name. The
I'll
kind
teach
of
them to double-cross
kind
me.
of
Take my
opaque
bags
guy.
outside and then watch one. Right.
I like it.
I know some people in Mexico. We can go there and start all over again. I know what I've been, Joey, but I can change all that.
I can change, honest. Is the guinea pig in the bag?
Split. You're
Because
on
I
your own,
swear I
baby.
just heard it.
But you said we'd be together.
Honey,
He lied.
right now I need a car more than I need you. So you can start walking anytime.
But you just can't go off and leave me.
Sure you can.
Joey!
Goodbye, Laura.
No, if they'd been more... I mean, I'm sorry, The Amazing Transparent Man is not a very good movie title. But I guess they weren't very creative
We'll leave everything except the nuclear
back
material.
then. Because Now You See Me would have been a much better title.
They'll be all over us.
I will not.
What?
I've been running away most of my life.
Doctor, there's something wrong with your formula, but we'll work it out in a new location. An invisible army is worth billions.
An army of dead men, Major.
But if you don't do what he wants, you're going to have a dead daughter. You seem to keep forgetting
Marie
that.
with me. I'm sure you'll come along. No. Marie, my dear.
Doc, what's wrong? Why do I keep appearing and disappearing?
I don't know. I needed more time to study the X-13 before trying it out on you.
Oh, fine. Well, you're going to do something about it. I've got to be normal, and you're going to take care of it.
I will, but not in this place.
Oh, why not? I got him locked up.
I want to be taken away from here, my daughter and I. Only then I will treat you.
But
He's actually the amazing,
All right, let's
sometimes
blow out of
transparent, sometimes not transparent man.
Forget something? Where's Faust?
He's in the house.
Major knows all about you and Faust. Said you'd be back. Inside. Come on down, Faust.
put that thing down.
I take my orders from the Major. I have to.
The Major?
Let me. Julian, you believe what he told you about your son being alive in prison and in Europe?
Yes, I do.
He lied.
Your son's dead, Julian. Krenner's been using you all along.
No. He wouldn't do that to me. I mean, why would you just take her word for it? You took the other guy's word for it. Your son was alive.
So you had to come back. Come on. I told you to hit the road. It was for your own good.
But Joey, please give me a chance.
Sweetheart, you had your chance.
Joey!
All right, come on. Come on, Jude.
Come on, Julian. You're coming with us now.
Do you know what the Krenner is after? A process, so an invisible army can invade your country.
I don't care about Krenner or his army. I care about me.
The whole this is futile. Krenner has found me before. He'll find me again.
I've got money, and I know places across the border he never heard
The
of.
amazing
Now, how long are these
transparent
treatments
man.
going to take?
You may someday be declared a
That
martyr,
would-
Mr.
that would
Faust.
be a
A
very
man
good
who sacrificed
sitcom.
himself so that the invisible army might not overrun your country.
What are you trying to pull? You want it out of here. I made a deal with you. Now you cross me and I'll kill you.
That is
I'm
the
a dying man,
sitcom
Mr.
that we
Faust.
need.
Radiation poisoning.
Get on that, okay?
You're dying too. You're worse off than I.
You're lying.
You have only weeks, perhaps days to live.
You used me just to get away from Krenner.
To free Maria. I had no choice. Come on. Are you so intent upon evading the police for a few remaining days? Don't you care what Krenner is doing to your country?
Why should I care? What
Not
did
really.
my country ever do for me but try and bury me in a concrete tomb for the rest of my life?
I'm thinking of my child. You should think of yours. Perhaps you deserve prison. But did Maria deserve what has happened to her? Did her mother need to die? Is this the kind of world you want for your child? That is what an invisible army will bring. I've seen it.
When did we establish that Faust had a child? Or is he the one who named his child Child?
A month. No more. No, thanks.
Don't wait for me.
There is a man who has unlocked every door except the one to his own soul. Now he has the key. Come, my dear. We must find a telephone and notify the police.
You're dead.
Joey! 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 Joey, will you please
Wait
listen
for
to
me outside. Wait.
Bang, bang. Oh, we don't have to worry about her anymore.
Joey.
Peekaboo. Strangest game of hide and seek ever. Go invisible again. I guess now we all want to be invisible. Scream like a little bitch. I mean, why would it be affecting them when... I don't understand. I mean, before they used it on him and everything in the room didn't become invisible, so why is it affecting them now when they're not near the table? So many questions.
Drake and Smith, security.
Sorry, I got my orders. No one enters this area. Too much fallout for safety.
All right, officer. Just a
Yeah,
minute.
they didn't have a budget for logic, so logic is expensive. It went boom. See, now this kind of reminds me of the Invisible Man movie that Chevy Chase was in. The building blew up and turned out he survived. And the building wasn't actually blown up. Parts of it were just invisible.
Be with you in a minute, Smitty. Well, Doctor, you and your friends have succeeded in blowing up half the county. There
It
isn't
must have
enough
been a
left out
very
there to
small
make
county
ashes.
then.
I'm deeply sorry, of course. But as I told you before, I didn't do anything by choice. I warned Major Krenner of the danger involved. But you must realize his was a deranged mind. All he could think of was the creating of an invisible army and the power such a force would give him.
You know, Doctor, this idea of an invisible army is quite interesting. Imagine what our counterintelligence could accomplish if they were able to become invisible whenever necessary.
You can work for the government now.
The agency has already discussed the possibilities with me. But my friend, think of the danger if the secret were stolen from us. It has happened before, you know.
Plus, we already know it goes
Perhaps
boom.
It would be better if we let the secret die with Major Krenner and Joy Faust. It's a serious problem. What would you do?
Well, chat, we've been challenged. What would you do? I'm not entirely sure what the question was. Are we making an invisible army or not? Decisions, decisions. Serious man with serious problems. I mean, it wasn't a horrible movie. We have seen worse. We have definitely seen worse. Bring the music back. Can you imagine the uses in the fetish scene, though? Because remember, everything is a fetish film. An invisible army to hire for all those people with invisibility fetishes. Exactly. You would never know when that next spank was coming. And that would just make it so much more exciting. Of course, we don't mean that in a sexual way, because this is a family-friendly stream. Always family-friendly. Is Ted still around? Yes, Ted's still around. Ted's, do you want to see the rock I got? We have a new shiny rock. It is much pretty. Much pretty, so shine. Why can't I make it bigger? Pretty rock. Yep, and the appetite. My camera really made it look dull. I forgot to ask Sage if she licked it before she sent it, but I assume she did. This is the beautiful rock and my koala Sage sticker. I shouldn't cover up the chat, but I'm going to. Because here, let's try to resize this. I guess I didn't even make quite that big. No. No. There, good enough. My beauty Miss Rock. I'm glad you got your fluoride, and I was excited. I was kind of pissed at the mailman because he kind of shoved the package in my mailbox, but luckily my koala Sage did not get bent. Okay, that is enough of rock. It is a pretty rock, though. It is a very shiny rock. Much shiny. can do a I can speak English too. I can do a rock licking ASMR stream now. I know you want that, Tedst. I know you want rock licking ASMR. Just for you, I will do it. I won't actually do it. I'm kidding. There will be no rock licking on tonight's stream. There will be no ASMR. A thing you love and hate? I mean, I will lick it. I will do it. Here. I will do it now. Everyone, you're gonna get some rock licking ASMR. Also there's some ASMR for you. It's the envelope. ASMR. We're an ASMR stream now. Don't tell, because I'm not changing the category. Usually I kind of like the sound that bubble wrap makes. Okay. Alright, you ready? I'm gonna lick the rock for you. Actually, it doesn't make a noise when I lick it. And it doesn't have a taste. Which is probably a good thing. Rocks should not have taste. But, yeah. It's a very quiet rock to lick. Well, that was disappointing that it didn't make sound. But I may have licked the same rock that Sage licked. I mean, that is alone is exciting, right? Okay, let's get you back in your little envelope. Well, now I'll just have to go and get a, oh my god, I can't remember the name of those pops that I get. Yeah, Sage, what mineral will be louder when I lick it? Yeah, I'll go get a lollipop and I'll lick that, because I know that those make sounds, and I know deep down Tedst wants ASMR, really does. And also, I need to get ready. I'm gonna read you guys a book. I'm not gonna read the entire book probably, but at least a chapter, because I found a weird science story. That's what they categorized it as. They said it was kind of Lovecraft, but more weird science than Lovecraft or sci-fi. Hey, good night, Debbie. I mean, I'm happy to read you to sleep. Oh, good night. Get your sleep, Debbie. Thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah, I know appetite isn't deadly. I'd already talked to Sage about that. She promised me she would lick it before she sent it, so. Yeah, appetite you can lick. I mean, as we discussed earlier, you can lick anything once. And only once sometimes. Like the Cinnabar. If you want to lick it, you can lick it once, so choose a good piece. Okay, I am going to go and grab a drink and get ready to read to you, because I'm definitely going to need some water to drink while I read. I don't know how long I will read for, because I'll do at least one chapter of this novel. And the novel is... Come on, you got a title. Why are you not giving me your title? I want the chapter name. In Search of the Unknown by Robert Chambers. written in 1904. So, it should be a good read. I think we will like it. I will be back in a couple minutes. So, go get your water, your drinks, your popcorn, whatever else you may need, maybe a pillow. I've been told I have a soothing voice. I will read you all to sleep. Maybe I'll get something first that I can suck on to. Get that ASMR in, because we definitely need some licking ASMR. Yes. I will be right back, guys.
the people right now. Pegboard nerds, monster, have you locking at the sound? All of the gal I go passing when me boy I go drop them a coming. Murder. Me are the burning fire and natural born killer. When me pass into flame, watch out some might sting. You better turn it, I am make the bad boy bigger. When they come around, we all go on them. Listen to the word and the fire you catch in the middle. When the flames catch, I put up your gun fingers. Return all of the fire, it's a bad man single, give a sign. And pull your gun finger trigger. Gun finger trigger. Gun finger trigger. Gun finger trigger. Return all of the fire, it's a bad man single, give a sign. And pull your gun finger trigger.
Alright guys, I'm back. I was gonna get some tea, but I got impatient boiling the water, so we just got some water. But I also have a very special treat for all of you wanting the ASMR, because I know that's really why you're here. I have a funnel cake Dum Dum Pop, and I bet it'll make some good ASMR, so let's find out. Uncle Bill, hi! How are you? You're just in time for ASMR. What do you think? Will you choose? Well, no, YouTube couldn't demonetize it. I can't monetize my videos when I export them to YouTube. This is more cinnamony than I thought it would be. Yes, it's a Sage sticker and Appetite. I got the Appetite that she sent me in the mail. My camera did not do justice to that rock. It is so much more shiny and sparkly and has the orangey red inclusions that just don't show up in that picture. Sage would have been proud. I left at the beginning of this. When I first started my stream, I was talking to it and I had to leave for 10 seconds because my mic stand was falling over. And chat went straight to, let's eat the rock. So it's not just our stream. So now we're in the ASMR portion of this stream. I did lick the rock also. It was a very silent rock to lick. I was disappointed. That's why I now have a Dum Dum Pop for the ASMR. Lick the science. I mean, what is science if we can't lick it, right? But I can lick this Dum Dum Pop just for test. Thing is really cinnamony. I don't think I'm gonna lick it anymore. I have to save something for later. I'll just randomly lick it while I'm reading the story. Okay, so I guess I can leave the picture of the rock up there. I mean, why not? Yes. I'll leave the picture of the rock up there while I read you your bedtime story. And tonight's bedtime story, this is gonna wrap right. Okay, it is. It's called In Search of the Unknown by, God, I already forgot his name. Robert W. Chambers. Published in 1904. It is in the public domain now. So, let us begin. Let me turn off the music. I should probably find some better music. But I won't. I should, I won't. Fuck it. You can have the sound of the flames and the fire. I need to get rid of the picture for that to work. You can watch the fire. Is that the one I want to get rid of? Yes, there. So I'll gather around the campfire and listen to the story. And at the beginning of this, there's a little poem. I'm assuming that the author wrote it. I think it's a nice poem, so I shall read it. Where the slanting forest eaves, shingled tight with greenest leaves, sweep the scented meadow sedge. Let us snoop along the edge. Let us pry in hidden nooks, laden with our nature books, scaring birds with happy cries, chloroforming butterflies, rooting up each woodland plant, pinning beetle, fly, and ant, so we may identify what we've ruined by and by. I think that is a pretty awesome poem. I really like it. Now on to the story proper. Chapter 1. Because it all seems so improbable, so horribly impossible to me now, sitting here safe and sane in my own library, I hesitate to record an episode which already appears to me less horrible than grotesque. Yet, unless this story is written now, I know I shall never have the courage to tell the truth about the matter. Not from fear of ridicule, but because I myself shall soon cease to credit what I now know to be true. Yet scarcely a month has elapsed since I heard the stealthy purring of what I believed to be the shoaling undertow. Scarcely a month ago, with my own eyes, I saw that which, even now, I am beginning to believe never existed. As for the harbor master, and the blow I am now striking at the old order of things, but of that I shall not speak now, or later. I shall try to tell the story simply and truthfully, and let my friends testify as to my probity, and the publishers of this book corroborate them. On the 29th of February, I resigned my position under the government and left Washington to accept an offer from Professor Farrago, whose name he kindly permits me to use. And on the first day of April, I entered upon my new and congenial duties as General Superintendent of the Waterfowl Department, connected with the Zoological Gardens, then in course of erection at Bronx Park, New York. For a week I followed the routine, examining the new foundations, studying the architect's plans, following the surveyors through the Bronx thickets, suggesting arrangements for water courses and pools destined to be included in the enclosures for swans, geese, pelicans, herons, and such of the waders and swimmers as we might expect to acclimate in Bronx Park. was at that time the policy of the trustees and officers of the zoological gardens neither to employ collectors nor to send out expeditions in search of specimens. The society decided to depend upon voluntary contributions, and I was always busy. Part of the day in dictating answers to correspondents who wrote offering their services as hunters of big game, collectors of all sorts of fauna, trappers, snarers, and also to those who offered specimens for sale, usually at exorbitant rates. To the proprietors of five-legged kittens, mangy lynxes, moth-eaten coyotes, and dancing bears, I returned courteous but uncompromising refusals. Of course, first submitting all such letters together with my replies to Professor Farrago. One day towards the end of May, however, just as I was leaving Bronx Park to return to town, Professor Lessard of the Reptilian Department called out to me that Professor Farrago wanted to see me a moment. So I put my pipe into my pocket again and retraced my steps to the temporary wooden building occupied by Professor Farrago, General Superintendent of the Zoological Gardens. The professor, who was sitting at his desk before a pile of letters and replies submitted for approval by me, pushed his glasses down and looked over them at me with a whimsical smile that suggested amusement, impatience, annoyance, and perhaps a faint trace of apology. "Now, here's a letter," he said with a deliberate gesture towards a sheet of paper impaled on a file. "A letter that I suppose you remember." He disengaged a sheet of paper and handed it to me. "Oh, yes," I replied with a shrug. "Of course the man is mistaken, or what?" demanded Professor Farrago, tranquilly, wiping his glasses. "Or a liar," I replied. After a silence, he leaned back in his chair and bade me read the letter to him again, and I did so with a contemptuous tolerance for the writer. That was a big word. Who must have been either a very innocent victim or a very stupid swindler. I said as much to Professor Farrago, but to my surprise, he appeared to waver. "I suppose," he said, with a nearsighted, embarrassed smile, "that 999 men in 1,000 would throw the letter aside and condemn the writer as a liar or a fool." "In my opinion," said I, "he's one or the other." "He isn't in mine," said the professor placidly. "What?" I exclaimed. "Here is a man living all alone on a strip of rock and sand between the wilderness and the sea, who wants you to send somebody to take charge of a bird that doesn't exist." "How do you know," asked Professor Farrago, "that the bird in question does not exist?" "It is generally accepted," I replied sarcastically, "that the great auk has been extinct for years. Therefore I may be pardoned for doubting that our correspondent possesses a pair of them alive." "Oh, you young fellows," said the professor, smiling wearily. "You embark on a theory for destinations that don't exist." He leaned back in his chair, his amused eyes searching space for the imagery that made him smile. "Like swimming squirrels, you navigate with the help of heaven in a stiff breeze, but you never land where you hope to, do you?" Rather red in the face, I said, "Don't you believe the great auk to be extinct?" "Audubon saw the great auk." "Who has seen a single specimen since?" "Nobody, except our correspondent here," he replied, laughing. I laughed too, considering the interview at an end, but the professor went on coolly. "Whatever it is that our correspondent has, and I am daring to believe that it is the great auk itself, I want you to secure it for the society." When my astonishment subsided, my first conscious sentiment was one of pity. Clearly Professor Farrago was on the verge of dotage. Ah, what a loss to the world. I believe now that Professor Farrago perfectly interpreted my thoughts, but he betrayed neither resentment nor impatience. I drew a chair up beside his desk. There was nothing to do but to obey, and this fool's errand was none of my conceiving. Together we made out a list of articles necessary for me, and itemized the expenses I might incur, and I set a date for my return, allowing no margin for a successful termination to the expedition. "Never mind that," said the professor. "What I want you to do is to get those birds here safely. Now, how many men will you take?" "None," I replied bluntly. "It's a useless expense unless there is something to bring back. If there is, I'll wire you, you may be sure." "Very well," said Professor Farragut good-humoredly. "You shall have all the assistance you may require. Can you leave tonight?" The old gentleman was certainly prompt. I nodded half sulkily, aware of his amusement. "So," I said, picking up my hat, "am I to start north to find a place called Black Harbor, where there is a man named Halyard who possesses, among other household utensils, 2 extinct great auks?" We were both laughing by this time. I asked him why on earth he credited the assertion of a man he had never before heard of. "I suppose," he replied, with the same half-apologetic, half-humorous smile, "it is extinct. I feel somehow that this man Halyard has got an auk. Perhaps 2. I can't get away from the idea that we are on the eve of acquiring the rarest of living creatures. It's odd for a scientist to talk as I do. Doubtless you're shocked. Admit it now." But I was not shocked. On the contrary, I was conscious that the same strange hope that Professor Farragut cherished was beginning, in spite of me, to stir my pulses too. "If he has," I began, then stopped. The professor and I looked hard at each other in silence. "Go on," he said encouragingly. But I had nothing more to say, for the prospect of beholding with my own eyes a living specimen of the great auk produced a series of conflicting emotions within me which rendered speech profanely superfluous. "Uncle Bill, thank you for the host. Much appreciated." As I took my leave, Professor Farragut came to the door of the temporary wooden office and handed me the letter written by the man Halyard. I folded it and put it into my pocket, as Halyard might require it for my own identification. "How much does he want for the pair?" I asked. $10,000. Don't demur. If the birds are really—" "I know," I said hastily, not daring to hope too much. "One more thing," said Professor Farragut gravely. "You know, in that last paragraph of his letter, Halyard speaks of something else in the way of specimens. An undiscovered species of amphibious biped. Just read that paragraph again, will you?" I drew the letter from my pocket and read as he directed. "When you have seen the 2 living specimens of the great auk, and have satisfied yourself that I tell the truth, you may be wise enough to listen without prejudice to a statement I shall make concerning the existence of the strangest creature ever fashioned. I will merely say, at this time, that the creature referred to is an amphibious biped and inhabits the ocean near this coast. More I cannot say, for I personally have not seen the animal, but I have a witness who has, and there are many who affirm that they have seen the creature. You will naturally say that my statements amount to nothing, but when your representative arrives, if he be free from prejudice, I expect his reports to you concerning this sea biped will confirm the solemn statements of a witness I know to be impeachable. Yours truly, Burton Halyard, Black Harbor." "Well," I said, after a moment's thought, "here goes the wild goose chase." "Wild auk, you mean?" said Professor Farragut, shaking hands with me. "You will start tonight, won't you?" "Yes, but heaven knows how I'm ever going to land in this man Halyard's dooryard. Goodbye." "About that sea biped," began Professor Farragut shyly. "Oh, don't," I said. "I can swallow the auks, feathers, and claws, but if this fellow Halyard is hinting he's seen an amphibious creature resembling a man—" "Or a woman," said the professor cautiously. I retired, disgusted, my faith shaken in the mental vigor of Professor Farragut. And that is the end of Chapter 1. Let me take some water, and you guys want to continue on with another chapter? See how far we can get? And I promise not to interrupt the story again. I will do all interrupting between chapters. Had to suck on my dum-dum pop a bit. Alright, here we go. The 3 days voyage by boat and rail was irksome. I bought my kit at St. Croix on the Central Pacific Railroad, and on June 1st I began the last stage of my journey via the St. Isolde broad gauge, arriving in the wilderness by daylight. A tedious forest matched by blazed trail, freshly spotted on the wrong side, of course, brought me to the northern terminus of the rusty, narrow-gauge lumber railway which runs from the heart of the hushed pine wilderness to the sea. Already a long train of battered flat cars, piled with sluice props and roughly hewn sleepers, was moving slowly off into the brooding forest gloom when I came in sight of the track. But I developed a gratifying and unexpected burst of speed, shouting all the while. The train stopped. I swung myself aboard the last car, where a pleasant young fellow was sitting on the rear brake, chewing spruce and reading a letter. "Come aboard, sir," he said, looking up with a smile. "I guess you're a man in a hurry." "I'm looking for a man named Halyard," I said, dropping rifle and knapsack on the fresh-cut, fragrant pile of pine. "Are you Halyard?" "No, I'm Francis Lee, bossing the mica pit at Port of Waves," he replied. "But this letter is from Halyard, asking me to look out for a man in a hurry from Bronx Park, New York." "I'm that man," said I, filling my pipe and offering him a share of the weed of peace. And we sat side by side smoking very amiably, until a signal from the locomotive sent him forward, and I was left alone, lounging at ease, head pillowed on both arms, watching the blue sky flying through the branches overhead. Long before we came in sight of the ocean, I smelled it. The fresh salt aroma stole into my senses, drowsy with the heated odor of pine and hemlock, and I sat up, peering ahead into the dusky sea of pines. Fresher and fresher came the wind from the sea, in puffs, in mild, sweet breezes, in steady, freshening currents, blowing the feathery crowns of the pines, setting the balsam's blue tufts rocking. Lee wandered back over the long line of flats, balancing himself nonchalantly as the cars swung around a sharp curve, where water dripped from a newly propped sluice that suddenly emerged from the depths of the forest to run parallel to the railroad track. "Built it this spring," he said, surveying his handiwork, which seemed to undulate as the cars swept past. "It runs to the cove. Or ought to." He stopped abruptly with a thoughtful glance at me. "So you're going over to Halyard's?" he continued, as though answering a question asked by himself. I nodded. "You've never been there, of course." "No," I said, "and I'm not likely to go again." I would have told him why I was going if I had not already begun to feel ashamed of my idiotic errand. "I guess you're going to look at those birds of his," continued Lee placidly. "I guess I am," I said sulkily, glancing askance to see whether he was smiling. But he only asked me, quite seriously, whether great auk was really a very rare bird, and I told him that the last one ever seen had been found dead off Labrador in January 1870. Then I asked him whether these birds of Halyard's were really great auks, and he replied, somewhat indifferently, that he supposed they were. At least nobody had ever before seen such birds near Port of Waves. "There's something else," he said, running a pine sliver through his pipe stem. "Something that interests us all here more than auks, big time. I suppose I might as well speak of it, as you are bound to hear about it sooner or later." He hesitated, and I could see that he was embarrassed, searching for the exact words to convey his meaning. "If," said I, "you have anything in this region more important to science than the great auk, I should be very glad to know about it." Perhaps there was the faintest tinge of sarcasm in my voice, for he shot a sharp glance at me and then turned slightly. After a moment, however, he put his pipe in his pocket, laid hold of the brake with both hands, vaulted to his perch aloft, and glanced down at me. "Did you ever hear of the harbor master?" "Did you ever hear of the harbor master?" he asked maliciously. Which harbor master? I inquired. You'll know before long, he observed, with a satisfied glance into perspective. This rather extraordinary observation puzzled me. I waited for him to resume, and as he did not, I asked what he meant. If I knew, he said, I'd tell you. But come to think of it, I'd be a fool to go into details with a scientific man. You'll hear about the harbor master. Perhaps you will see the harbor master. In that event, I should be glad to converse with you on the subject. I could not help laughing at his prim and precise manner, and after a moment he also laughed, saying, It hurts a man's vanity to know he knows a thing that somebody else knows he doesn't know. I'm damned if I say another word about the harbor master until you've been to Halyards. A harbor master, I persisted, is an official who superintends the mooring of ships, isn't he? But he refused to be tempted into conversation, and we lounged silently on the lumber until a long, thin whistle from the locomotive and a rush of stinging salt wind brought us to our feet. Through the trees, I could see the bluish-black ocean, stretching out beyond black headlands to meet the clouds. A great wind was roaring among the trees as the train slowly came to a standstill on the edge of the primeval forest. Lee jumped to the ground and aided me with my rifle and pack, and then the train began to back away along a curved side track which Lee said led to the mica pit and the company stores. Now what will you do? He asked pleasantly. I can give you a good dinner and a decent bed tonight if you like, and I'm sure Mrs. Lee will be very glad to have you stop with us as long as you choose. I thanked him but said I was anxious to reach Halyards before dark, and he very kindly led me along the cliffs and pointed out the path. This man Halyard, he said, is an invalid. He lives at a cove called Black Harbor, and all his truck goes through to him over the company's road. We receive it here and send a pack mule through once a month. I've met him. He's a bad-tempered hypochondriac, a cynic at heart, and a man whose word is never doubted. If he says he has a great auk, you may be satisfied he has. My heart was beating with excitement at the prospect. I looked out across the wooded headlands and tangled stretches of dune and hollow, trying to realize what it might mean to me, to Professor Farragut, to the world, if I should lead back to New York a live auk. He's a crank, said Lee. Frankly, I don't like him. If you find it unpleasant there, come back to us. Does Halyard live alone? I asked. Yes, except for a professional trained nurse. Poor thing. A man? No, said Lee disgustedly. Presently he gave me a peculiar glance, hesitated, and finally said, Ask Halyard to tell you about his nurse and the harbor master. Goodbye, I'm due at the quarry. Come and stay with us whenever you care to. You will find a welcome at Port of Waves. We shook hands and parted on the cliff, he turning back into the forest along the railway, I starting northward, pack slung, rifle over my shoulder. Once I met a group of quarrymen, faces burning brick red, scarred hands swinging as they walked. And as I passed them with a nod, turning, I saw that they also had turned to look after me, and I caught a word or two of their conversation, whirled back to me on the sea wind. They were speaking of the harbor master. And that is the end of chapter 2. shit, I just realized that the microphone had come loose. I'm here. We will restart chapter 3. Sorry about that. It was a silent stream. I was sending the words out into your little brains. Okay, we will reread this. It's fine. I'm just having a night, you know? Towards sunset, I came out on a sheer granite cliff where the seabirds were whirling and clamoring, and the great breakers dashed, rolling in double thundered reverberations on the sun-dyed crimson sands below the rock. Across the half-moon of beach towered another cliff, and behind this I saw a column of smoke rising in the still air. It certainly came from Halyard's chimney, although the opposite cliff prevented me from seeing the house itself. I rested a moment to refill my pipe, then resumed rifle and pack, and cautiously started to skirt the cliffs. I had descended halfway towards the beach, and was examining the cliff opposite when something on the very top of the rock arrested my attention. A man darkly outlined against the sky. The next moment, however, I knew it could not be a man, for the object suddenly glided over the face of the cliff and slid down the sheer, smooth lace like a lizard. Before I could get a square look at it, the thing crawled into the surf, or at least it seemed to. But the whole episode occurred so suddenly, so unexpectedly, that I was not sure I had seen anything at all. However, I was curious enough to climb the cliff on the land side and make my way towards the spot where I imagined I saw the man. Of course, there was nothing there. Not a trace of a human being, I mean. Something had been there. A sea otter, possibly. For the remains of a freshly killed fish lay on the rock, eaten to the backbone and tail. The next moment, below me, I saw the house. A freshly painted, trim, flimsy structure, modern and very much out of harmony with the splendid savagery surrounding it. It struck a nasty, cheap note in the noble gray monotony of headland and sea. The descent was easy enough. I crossed the crescent beach, hard as pink marble, and found a little trodden path among the rocks that led to the front porch of the home. There were 2 people on the porch. I heard their voices before I saw them, and when I set my foot upon the wooden steps, I saw one of them, a woman, rise from her chair and step hastily towards me. "Come back," cried the man. A man with a smooth-shaven, deeply lined face and a pair of angry blue eyes, and the woman stepped back quietly, acknowledging my lifted hat with a silent inclination. The man, who was reclining in an invalid's rolling chair, clapped both large, pale hands to the wheels and pushed himself out along the porch. He had shawls pinned about him, an untidy, drab-colored hat on his head, and when he looked down at me, he scowled. "I know who you are," he said in his acid voice. "You're one of the zoological men from Bronx Park. You look like it, anyway." "It is easy to recognize you from your reputation," I replied, irritated at his discourtesy. "Really," he replied, with something between a sneer and a laugh. "I'm obliged for your frankness. You're after my great ox, are you not?" "Nothing else could have tempted me into this place," I replied sincerely. "Thank heaven for that," he said. "Sit down a moment. You've interrupted us." Then, turning to the young woman, who wore the neat gown and tiny cap of a professional nurse, he bade her resume what she had been saying. She did so, with deprecating glance at me, which made the old man sneer again. "It happened so suddenly," she said in her low voice, "that I had no chance to get back. The boat was drifting in the cove. I sat in the stern reading, both oars shipped, and the tiller swinging. Then I heard a scratching under the boat, but thought it might be seaweed. And next moment came those soft thumpings, like the sound of a big fish rubbing its nose against a float." Halyard clutched the wheels of his chair and stared at the girl in grim displeasure. "Didn't you know enough to be frightened?" he demanded. "No, not then," she said, colored faintly. "But when, after a few moments, I looked up and saw the harbor master running up and down the beach, I was horribly frightened." "Really," said Halyard sarcastically. "It was about time." Then turning to me, he rasped out, and that young lady was obliged to row all the way to Port of Waves and call to Lee's quarrymen to take her boat in. Completely mystified, I looked from Halyard to the girl, not in the least comprehending what all this meant. "That will do," said Halyard ungraciously, which curt phrase was apparently the usual dismissal for the nurse. She rose, and I rose, and she passed me with an inclination, stepping noiselessly into the house. "I want beef tea," bawled Halyard after her. Then he gave me an unamicable glance. "I was a well-bred man," he sneered. "I'm a Harvard graduate, too, but I live as I like, and I do what I like, and I say what I like." "You certainly are not reticent," I said, disgusted. "Why should I be?" he rasped. "I pay that young woman for my irritability. It's a bargain between us." "In your domestic affairs," I said, "there is nothing that interests me. I came to see those ox." "You probably believe them to be razor-billed ox," he said contemptuously. "But they're not. They're great ox." I suggested that he permit me to examine them, and he replied indifferently that they were in a pen in his backyard and that I was free to step around the house when I cared to. I laid my rifle and pack on the veranda and hastened off with mixed emotions, among which hope no longer predominated. No man in his senses would keep two such precious prizes in a pen in his backyard, I argued, and I was perfectly prepared to find anything from a puffin to a penguin in that pen. I shall never forget, as long as I live, my stupor of amazement when I came to the wire-covered enclosure. Not only were there two great ox in the pen, alive, breathing, squatting in bulky majesty on their seaweed bed, but one of them was gravely contemplating two newly hatched chicks, all bill and feet, which nestled stately at the edge of a puddle of salt water, where some small fish were swimming. For a while excitement blinded, nay, deafened me. I tried to realize that I was gazing upon the last individuals of an all but extinct race, the sole survivors of the gigantic auk, which for 30 years had been accounted an extinct creature. I believed that I did not move muscle nor limb until the sun had gone down, and the crowding darkness blurred my straining eyes and blotted the great, silent, bright-eyed birds from sight. Even then I could not tear myself away from the enclosure. I listened to the strange, drowsy note of the male bird, the fainter responses of the female, the thin plaints of the cheeks, huddled under her breast. I heard their flipper-like, embryotic wings beating sleepily as the birds stretched and yawned their beaks and clacked them, preparing for slumber. "If you please," came a soft voice from the door, "Mr. Halyard awaits your company to dinner." And that was the end of chapter 3. I will try to make it through chapter 4. I dined well, or rather, I might have enjoyed my dinner if Mr. Halyard had been eliminated, and the feast consisted exclusively of a joint of beef, the pretty nurse, and myself. She was exceedingly attractive, with a disturbing fashion of lowering her head and raising her dark eyes when spoken to. As for Halyard, he was unspeakable, bundled up in his snuffy shawls and making uncouth noises over his gruel. But it is only just to say that his table was worth sitting down to and his wine was sound as bell. "Yah," he snapped, "I'm sick of this cursed soup, and I'll trouble you to fill my glass." "It is dangerous for you to touch claret," said the pretty nurse. "I might as well die at dinner as anywhere," he observed. "Certainly," said I, cheerfully passing the decanter, but he did not appear overpleased with the attention. "I can't smoke, either," he snarled, hitching the shawls around until he looked like Richard III. However, he was good enough to shove a box of cigars at me, and I took one and stood up, as the pretty nurse slipped past and vanished into the little parlor beyond. We sat there for a while without speaking. He picked irritably at the breadcrumbs on the cloth, never glancing in my direction, and I, tired from my long foot tour, lay back in my chair, silently appreciating one of the best cigars I ever smoked. "Well," he rasped out at length, "what do you think of my ox? And my veracity?" I told him that both were impeachable. "Didn't they call me a swindler down there at your museum?" he demanded. I admitted that I had heard the term applied. Then I made a clean breast of the matter, telling him that it was I who had doubted, that my chief, Professor Farrago, had sent me against my will, and that I was ready and glad to admit that he, Mr. Halyard, was a benefactor of the human race. "Bosh," he said. "What good does a confounded, wobbly, bandy-toed bird do to the human race?" But he was pleased nevertheless, and presently he asked me, not unamiably, to punish his claret again. "I'm done for," he said. "Good things to eat and drink are no good to me. Someday I'll get mad enough to have a fit, and then—" He paused to yawn. "Then," he continued, "that little nurse of mine will drink up my claret and go back to civilization where people are polite." Somehow or other, in spite of the fact that Halyard was an old pig, what he said touched me. There was certainly not much left in life for him, and he regarded life. "I'm going to leave her this house," he said, arranging his shawls. "She doesn't know it. I'm going to leave her my money, too. She doesn't know that. Good Lord, what kind of a woman can she be to stand my bad temper for a few dollars a month?" "I think," said I, "that it's partly because she's poor, partly because she's sorry for you." He looked up with a ghastly smile. "You think she really is sorry?" Before I could go answer, he went on. "I'm no mawkish sentimentalist, and I won't allow anybody to be sorry for me. Do you hear?" "Oh, I'm not sorry for you," I said hastily, and for the first time since I had seen him, he laughed heartily without a sneer. We both seemed to feel better after that. I drank his wine and smoked his cigars, and he appeared to take a certain grim pleasure in watching me. "There's no fool like a young fool," he observed presently. As I had no doubt he referred to me, I paid him no attention. After fidgeting with his shawls, he gave me an oblique smile, an oblique scowl, and asked me my age. 24, I replied. "Sort of a tadpole, aren't you?" he said. As I took no offense, he repeated the remark. "Oh, come on," said I. "There's no use in trying to irritate me. I see through you. A row acts like a cocktail on you. But you'll have to stick to gruel in my company." "I call that impudence," he rasped out wrathfully. "I don't care what you call it," I replied, undisturbed. "I am not going to be worried by you. Anyway," I ended, "it is my opinion that you could be very good company if you chose." The proposition appeared to take his breath away. At least he said nothing more, and I finished my cigar in peace and tossed the stump into a saucer. "Now," said I, "what price do you set upon your birds, Mr. Halyard?" $10,000, he snapped with an evil smile. "You will receive a certified check when the birds are delivered," I said quietly. "You don't mean to say you agree to that outrageous bargain? And I won't take a cent less either." "Good Lord, haven't you any spirit left?" he cried, half rising from his pile of shawls. His piteous eagerness for a dispute sent me into laughter impossible to control, and he eyed me, mouth opening, animosity rising visibly. Then he seized the wheels of his invalid chair and trundled away, too mad to speak, and I strolled out into the parlor, still laughing. The pretty nurse was there, sewing under a hanging lamp. "If I am not indiscreet," I began. "Indiscretion is the better part of valor," she said, dropping her head but raising her eyes. I sat down with a frivolous smile peculiar to the appreciated. "Doubtless," said I, "you are hemming a handkerchief." "Doubtless I am not," she said. "This is a nightcap from Mr. Halyard." A mental vision of Halyard in a nightcap, very mad, nearly set me laughing again. Like the king of Evitot, He wears his crown in bed, I said flippantly. The King of Evatop might have made that remark, she observed, rethreading her needle. It is unpleasant to be reproved. How large and red and hot a man's ears feel. To cool them, I strolled out to the porch, and after a while the pretty nurse came out too, and sat down in a chair not far away. She probably regretted her lost opportunity to be flirted with. I have so little company. It is a great relief to see somebody from the world, she said. If you can be agreeable, I wish you would. The idea that she had come out to see me was so agreeable that I remained speechless until she said, "Do tell me what people are doing in New York." So I seated myself on the steps and talked about the portion of the world inhabited by me, while she sat sewing in the dull light that straggled out from the parlor windows. She had a certain coquetry of her own, using the usual methods with an individual that was certainly fetching. For instance, when she lost her needle, and another time when we both, on hands and knees, hunted for her thimble. However, directions for these pastimes may be found in contemporary classics. I was as entertaining as I could be. Perhaps not quite as entertaining as a young man usually thinks he is. However, we got on very well together until I asked her tenderly who the harbor master might be, whom they all discussed so mysteriously. "I do not care to speak about it," she said, with a primness of which I had not suspected her capable. Of course, I could scarcely pursue the subject after that, and indeed I did not intend to. So I began to tell her how I fancied I'd seen a man on the cliff that afternoon, and how the creature slid over the sheer rock like a snake. To my amazement, she asked me to kindly discontinue the account of my adventures in an icy tone which left no room for protest. It was only a sea otter, I tried to explain, thinking perhaps she did not care for snake stories. But the explanation did not appear to interest her, and I was mortified to observe that my impression upon her was anything but pleasant. She doesn't seem to like me and my stories, thought I. But she's too young, perhaps, to appreciate them. So I forgave her, for she was even prettier than I had thought at first, and I took my leave, saying that Mr. Halyard would doubtless direct me to my room. Halyard was in his library, cleaning a revolver when I entered. "Your room is next to mine," he said. "Pleasant dreams, and kindly refer from snoring." "May I venture an absurd hope that you will do the same?" I replied politely. That maddened him, so I hastily withdrew. I had been asleep for at least 2 hours when a movement by my bedside and a light in my eyes awakened me. I sat bolt upright in bed, blinking at Halyard, who, clad in a dressing gown and wearing a nightcap, had wheeled himself into my room with one hand, while the other he solemnly waved a candle over my head. "I'm so cursed lonely," he said. "Come, there's a good fellow. Talk to me in your own original, impudent way." I objected strenuously, but he looked so worn and thin, so lonely and bad-tempered, so lovelessly grotesque that I got out of bed and passed a spoonful of cold water over his head. Then I returned to bed and propped the pillows up for a back rest, ready to quarrel with him if it might bring some little pleasure into his morbid existence. "No," he said amiably. "I'm too worried to quarrel, but I'm much obliged for your kindly offer. I want to tell you something." "What?" I asked suspiciously. "I want to ask if you ever saw a man with gills like a fish." "Gills," I repeated. "Yes, gills. Did you?" "No," I replied angrily, "and neither did you." "No, I never did," he said in a curiously placid voice. "But there's a man with gills like a fish who lives in the ocean out there. Oh, you needn't look that way. Nobody ever thinks of doubting my word, and I tell you that there's a man, or a thing that looks like a man, as big as you are, too, all slate-colored, with nasty red gills like a fish, and I've a witness to prove what I say." "Who?" I asked sarcastically. "The witness? My nurse." "Oh. She saw a slate-colored man with gills." "Yes, she did. So did Francis Lee, superintendent of the mica quarry company at Port of Waves. So have a dozen men who work in the quarry. Oh, you needn't laugh, young man. It's an old story here, and anybody can tell you about the harbor master. The harbor master, I exclaimed. Yes, that slate-colored thing with gills that looks like a man, and by heaven is a man. That's the harbor master. Ask any quarryman at Port of Waves what it is that comes purring around their boats at the wharf and unties painters and changes the mooring of every catboard at the cove at night. Ask Francis Lee what it is he saw running and leaping up and down the shoal at sunset last Friday. Ask anybody along the coast what sort of thing moves among the cliffs like a man and slides over them into the sea like an otter. I saw it do that, I burst out. Oh, did you? Well, what was it? Something kept me silent, although a dozen explanations flew to my lips. After a pause, Halyard said, "You saw the harbor master. That's what you saw." I looked at him without a word. "Don't mistake me," he said pettishly. "I don't think the harbor master is a spirit or a sprite or a hobgoblin or any sort of damned rot. Neither do I believe it is an optical illusion." "What do you think it is?" I asked. "I think it's a man. I think it's a branch of the human race. That's what I think. Let me tell you something. The deepest spot in the Atlantic Ocean is a trifle over 5 miles deep, and I suppose you know that this place lies only a quarter of a mile off this headland. The British exploring vessel Gull, Captain Moreau, discovered and sounded it, I believe. Anyway, it's there, and it's my belief that the profound depths are inhabited by the remnants of the last race of amphibious human beings." This was childish. I did not bother to reply. "Believe it or not, as you will," he said angrily. "One thing I know, and that is this. The harbor master has taken to hanging around my cove, and he is attracted to my nurse. I won't have it. I'll blow his fishy gills out of his head if I ever get a shot at him. I don't care whether it's homicide or not. Anyway, it's a new kind of murder, and it attracts me." I gazed at him incredulously, but he was working himself into a passion, and I did not choose to say what I thought. "Yes, this slate-colored thing with gills goes purring and grinning and spitting about after my nurse. When she walks, when she rows, when she sits on the beach. Gad, it drives me nearly frantic. I won't tolerate it, I tell you." "No," said I wouldn't either. And I rolled over in bed convulsed with laughter. The next moment I heard my door slam. I smothered my mirth and rose to close the window, for the land wind blew cold from the forest, and a drizzle was sweeping the carpet as far as my bed. That luminous glare, which sometimes lingers after the stars go out, threw a trembling, nebulous radiance over sand and cove. I heard the seething currents under the breakers soften thunder, louder than I ever heard it. Then, as I closed my window, lingering for a last look at the crawling tide, I saw a man standing ankle-deep in the surf, all alone there in the night. But was it a man? For the figure suddenly began running over the beach on all fours like a beetle, waving its limbs like feelers. Before I could throw open the window again, it darted into the surf, and when I leaned out into the chilling drizzle, I saw nothing save the flat ebb crawling on the coast. I heard nothing save the purring of bubbles on seething sands. And that is the end of chapter 3. Let us see. Drop Bear, hello. Hello, Sage. Hello, Sidoran. Glad to see you here. We are just doing some reading. I should probably change the name of my stream to reflect this book. But I've already forgotten the name of it. Crap. I have already forgotten the name of the book I am reading. Oh well, titles aren't important, right? Let me at least try to change. What am I doing? POA is best game, Dot Bear. POE is best game. Why do this to me, Twitch? I just want to change my stream title. Reading a book. Put everyone to sleep. That's a good title. Sage, you need to play POE. His best game, I'm telling you. Okay, let's see if I can make it through one more chapter. I can do this. Okay. There we go. We will do this. Crap, now I can't remember. Chapter 5. It took me a week to perfect my arrangements for transporting the Great Ox by water to Port of Waves, where a lumber schooner was to be sent from Petite Saint-Isolde, chartered by me for a voyage to New York. I had constructed a cage made of osiers, in which my ox were to squat until they arrived at Bronx Park. My telegrams to Professor Farrago were brief. One merely said victory. Another explained that I wanted no assistance. And a third read, schooner chartered, arrived New York July 1st. Sent furniture van to foot of Bluff Street. My week as a guest of Mr. Halyard proved interesting. I wrangled with some invalid to his heart's content. I worked all day on my osier cage. I hunted the thimble in the moonlight with the pretty nurse. We sometimes found it. As for the thing they called the harbor master, I saw it a dozen times, but always either at night or so far away and so close to the sea that of course no trace of it remained when I reached the spot, rifle in hand. I had quite made up my mind that the so-called harbor master was a demented darky, wandered from heaven knows where, perhaps shipwrecked and gone mad from his sufferings. Still, it was far from pleasant to know that the creature was strongly attracted to the pretty nurse. She, however, persisted in regarding the harbor master as a sea creature. She earnestly affirmed that it had gills, like a fish's gills, that had a soft, fleshy hole for a mouth, and its eyes were luminous and lidless and fixed. Besides, she said with a shudder, it's all slate color like a porpoise, and it looks as wet as a sheet of India rubber in a dissecting room. The day before I was to set sail with my ox in a catboat bound for Port of Wales, Howard trundled up to me in his chair and announced his intention of going with me. Going where? I asked. To Port of Wales and then to New York, he replied tranquilly. I was doubtful, and my lack of cordiality hurt his feelings. Oh, of course, if you need the sea voyage, I began. I don't. I need you, he said savagely. I need the stimulus of our daily quarrel. I never disagreed so pleasantly with anybody in my life. It agrees with me. I am 100% better than I was last week. I was inclined to resent this, but something in the deep-lined face of the invalid softened me. Besides, I had taken a hearty liking to the old pig. I don't want any mawkish sentiment about it, he said, observing me closely. I won't permit anybody to feel sorry for me. Do you understand? I'll trouble you to use a different tone in addressing me, I replied hotly. I'll feel sorry for you if I choose to. And our usual quarrel proceeded to his deep satisfaction. By 6 o'clock next evening, I had Halyard's luggage stowed away in the catboat, and the pretty nurse's effects corded down. with the newly hatched auk chicks in a hat box on top. She and I placed the osier cage aboard, securing it firmly, and then throwing tablecloths over the ox heads. We led those simple and dignified birds down the paths and across the plank at the little wooden pier. Together we locked up the house, while Halyard stormed at us both and wheeled himself furiously up and down the beach below. At the last moment, she forgot her thimble. But we found it. I forget where. "Come on," shouted Halyard, waving his shawls furiously. "What the devil are you about up there?" He received our explanation with a sniff, and we trundled him aboard without further ceremony. "Don't run me across the plank like a steamer trunk," he shouted as I shot him dexterously into the cockpit. But the wind was dying away, and I had no time to dispute with him then. The sun was setting above the pine-clad ridge as our sail flapped and partly filled, and I cast off and began a long tack east by south to avoid the spouting rocks on our starboard bow. The seabirds rose in clouds as we swung across the shoal, the black surf ducks scattering out to sea, the gulls tossing their sun-tipped wings in the ocean, riding the rollers like bits of froth. Already we were sailing slowly out across that great hole in the ocean, 5 miles deep, the most profound sounding ever taken in the Atlantic. The presence of great heights or great depths, seen or unseen, always impresses the human mind. Perhaps oppresses it. We were very silent. The sunlight stain on cliff and beach deepened to crimson, then faded into somber purple bloom that lingered long after the rose tint died out in the zenith. Our progress was slow at times, although the sail filled with the rising land breeze. We scarcely seemed to move at all. "Of course," said the pretty nurse, "we couldn't go around the deepest hole in the Atlantic." "Scarcely," said Halyard sarcastically, "unless we grounded on a whale." "What's a soft thumping?" I asked. "Have we run afoul of a barrel or a log?" It was almost too dark to see, but I leaned over the rail and swept the water with my hand. Instantly something smooth glided under it, like the back of a great fish, and I jerked my hand back to the tiller. At the same moment, the whole surface of the water seemed to begin to purr, with a sound like the breaking of froth in a champagne glass. "What's the matter with you?" asked Halyard sharply. "A fish came up under my hand," I said, "a porpoise or something." With a low cry, the pretty nurse clasped my arm in both her hands. "Listen," she whispered. "It's purring around the boat." "What the devil's purring?" shouted Halyard. "I won't have anything purring around me." At that moment, to my amazement, I saw that the boat had stopped entirely, although the sail was full and the small pennant fluttered from the masthead. Something, too, was tugging at the rudder, twisting and jerking it until the tiller strained and creaked in my hand. All at once it snapped. The tiller swung useless and the boat whirled around, heeling in the stiffening wind, and drove shoreward. It was then that I, ducking to escape the boom, caught a glimpse of something ahead, something that a sudden wave seemed to toss on deck and leave there, wet and flapping. A man with round, fixed, fishy eyes and soft, slaty skin. But the horror of the things were the 2 gills that swelled and relaxed spasmodically, emitting a rasping, purring sound. 2 gasping, blood-red gills, all fluted and scalloped and distended. Frozen with amazement and repugnance, I stared at the creature. I felt the hair stirring on my head and the icy sweat on my forehead. "It's the harbor master," screamed Halyard. The harbor master had gathered himself into a wet lump, squatting motionless in the bows under the mast. His lidless eyes were phosphorescent, like the eyes of living codfish. After a while, I felt that either fright or disgust was going to strangle me where I sat, but it was only the arms of the pretty nurse clasped around me in a terror of frenzy. There was not a firearm aboard that we could get at. Halyard's hand crept backwards where a steel-shod boat-hook lay, and I also made a clutch at it. The next moment I had it in my hand, and staggered forward, but the boat was already tumbling shoreward among the breakers. And the next I knew, the harbor master ran at me like a colossal rat, just as the boat rolled over and over through the surf, spilling freight and passengers amongst the seaweed-covered rocks. When I came to myself, I was thrashing about, knee-deep in a rocky pool, blinded by the water and half suffocated, while under my feet, like a stranded porpoise, the harbor master made the water boil in his efforts to upset me. But his limbs were soft and boneless. He had no nails, no teeth, and he bounced and thumped and flapped and splashed like a fish, while I rained blows on him with the boat hook that sounded like blows on a football. And all the while his gills were blowing out and frothing and purring, and his lidless eyes looked into mine until, nauseated and trembling, I dragged myself back to the beach, where already the pretty nurse alternately wrung her hands and her petticoats in ornamental despair. Beyond the cove, Halyard was bobbing up and down, afloat in his invalid's chair, trying to steer shoreward. He was the maddest man I ever saw. "Have you killed that rubber-headed thing yet?" he roared. "I can't kill it," I shouted breathlessly. "I may as well try to kill a football." "Can't you punch a hole in it?" he bawled. "If I can only get at him." His words were drowned in a thunderous splashing, a roar of great broad flippers parading the sea, and I saw the gigantic forms of my 2 great auks, followed by their chicks, blundering past in a shower of spray, driving headlong out into the ocean. "Oh, Lord," I said, "I can't stand that," and for the first time in my life, I fainted peacefully, and appropriately, at the feet of the pretty nurse. It is within the range of possibility that this story may be doubted. It doesn't matter. Nothing can add to the despair of a man who has lost 2 great auks. As for Halyard, nothing affects him, except his involuntary sea bath, and that did him so much good that he writes me from the south that he's going on a walking tour through Switzerland, if I'll join him. I might have joined him if he had not married the pretty nurse. I wonder whether, but of course there is no place for speculation. In regard to the harbor master, you may believe it or not, as you choose. But if you hear of any great auks being found, kindly throw a tablecloth over their heads and notify the authorities at the new Zoological Gardens in Bronx Park, New York. The reward is $10,000. And that is the end of our story. And thank goodness, because I was having a really hard time forming the words there. That is an interesting story, though. What did you guys think of it? It was not what I was expecting. Apparently there is a little sea creature with a rubber head that cannot be killed out there. Yeah, it was a pretty good story. Englishing is hard. Englishing is especially hard when you're kind of tired and the words are blurring on the page. So hopefully I did not butcher it too badly. But yeah, it was an interesting story. Let me put a link to it in the chat if you guys want to read it for yourself. And again, it is called In Search of the Unknown by Robert W. Chambers. It's in part of the Gutenberg Project, so you can read it online, you can download the PDF. They've got a couple of different versions of it. The Man from Atlantis, yes. I'm wondering if there is actually, you know what, there is more to the story. My EPUB book did not download the entire thing. So you know what that means? I will be back to finish this story. Because I got through chapter 5. And there is like a whole bunch more chapters. So I made it like a third of the way through the story. We gonna be having reading time again, boys and girls? I still really love the poem at the beginning of this, though. I'm going to read it to you all again because I know you love it too. And plus, some of you came in after I had started, and you should hear the poem too. Where the slanting forest eaves, shingled tight with greenest leaves, sweep the scented meadow's edge, let us snoop along the edge. Let us pry in hidden nooks, laden with our nature books, scaring birds with happy cries, chloroforming butterflies, rooting up each woodland plant, pinning beetle, fly, and ant, so we may identify what we've ruined by and by. Best poem ever. I shall begin every stream reading it now. Bestest poem. I do. I'm glad that I guess I was kind of bummed because it was like that ending. I mean, it sounded like a good ending, but now there's like at least 15 more chapters. Maybe more, because it's too late for me to like there's 20. There's like 10. I think there's 15 chapters left. So, I don't know. I can't count. The best poem ever was, there once was a man from Nantucket. He went to the beach with a bucket. Hey, thank you for the host, Sage, and thank you for the host, Sidoran. Uncle Bill got very upset with me when I interrupted the story. So, from now on, when I read, I will read the chat in between chapters. Yeah, I'm probably going to be ending too, because I definitely can't read anymore. I love you, Sage. Have a good night. The Roman numbers, it's XXV, which I think is 25. And I finished chapter 5 or maybe 6. I know I finished chapter 5. Yeah, I finished chapter 5. So we've got 20 more chapters. Yay. We're gonna be reading the story. But not tonight. Oh, I can do some more ASMR though. Ted liked my ASMR with my Dum Dum Pop. Y'all want some ASMR? It's all dried out now. I don't want it. Okay, I'll look forward to seeing what you've been working on, puppy. You can spell your name however. I mean, you obviously can spell your name however you want to. And you can spell my name however I want to. There will be no more spelling tonight. That's obviously what I need to figure out. Would rather have science talk nerdy to us? Talk nerdy to us? No, it's too late to talk nerdy. I mean, we can look at the appetite again. I like my fire with my flames. But here we can look at, let's see, rock. That's as nerdy as it can get right now, Drock Bear. I'm gonna end the stream because I am also sleepy. I know the rock will eat the rock. Yes, it's a mineral drop bear. It is a mineral. It's a mineral rock. It's a rock mineral. I mean, I did lick the rock drop bear. I licked it, and it made no sound. It's a very silent rock. But I did lick the rock. Yep, koala sage. Okay, this concludes this because the rock is honestly like as much sciencing as I can do right now. My little eyeballs are going shut. So I'm gonna end the stream and see if I can find anybody to send y'all off to. I'll now send you off with the song. We will have the music. You welcome for the stream, Drop Bear. Take some melatonin. I've taken melatonin and it does work. I don't know. I've heard some people say it's a placebo effect. I don't care. I take a pill and then I sleep. You know what it is. That's what matters, right? Anyway, thank you guys all so much for coming out and joining me while I read you to sleep. I'm gonna need to get a good collection of bedtime stories. That doesn't work on you, puppy? Some of it doesn't work for me. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's placebo effect or what it is, but I have some good luck with the one that I've been using. It's a fast dissolving, but I do have to take it like 2 hours before I'm gonna go to bed. So anyway, thank you for stopping by. Let me see who we are going to go and visit. And I don't know when I will be streaming the rest of this book again, but we will definitely be streaming Ambien. Isn't Ambien a prescription drug? At least I think it's a prescription drug here in the US. Okay, let's see who we want to go visit. Yeah, because I know we've got Ambien, and I don't know what Lyrica is for. For some reason that came to mind. I don't think that's a sleeping medication. I think I am going to send you lovely peoples over to Sand Experiment. Now that I've read you all to sleep, you can watch some pretty sands. If I want something terrible to read, I mean, terrible things can be fun too. Feel free to send me some suggestions. As long as it's in the public domain so I don't have copyright problems, it's all good. Alright, we are going to go over to Sand Experiment. So, again, thank you all for stopping by. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is. I hope you have a great day. She's bottling and cataloging sand. Awesome. You will get some science, maybe. Y'all have been great. We'll finish our story another night. Thanks again for hanging out. Bye.